20 million. That's how many copies of the game Mecha Chameleon sold in just the last 2 months. And all it is just a game from one of those I Spy books slapped into the Unreal Engine. Escape from the Backroom, 7.9 million. Are We There Yet? Another 5 million. And what do they all have in common? They feel like overglorified asset flips. And brother, that's just the way I like it. So why are friendslop games becoming a thing? Why is it that games that are built like literal shit are now making a resurgence? Why did I only figure out just today that it's pronounced mecha and not mecha? Привет, BRATOOKA! Join me, friends, as we figure out why friendslop is suddenly making a resurgence. But before we can understand its comeuppance, we first need to understand what friendslop even is. The friend part is easy enough to understand because they're almost all exclusively multiplayer games, but the confusing part here is the slop. Why do we call it slop? Because if we're being honest here, no matter how much fun or entertainment you get out of these games, you won't ever not call it slop. You can sink 40 odd hours into something like Peak, and the best you'll get is a review saying, yeah, it's pretty okay, before continuing to play for another 60 hours. Which in the grand scheme doesn't seem like a lot, but that's actually quite a bit considering how basic a lot of these games are. And that's honestly their first strength. They're just that basic. There isn't a video game on the planet that wasn't designed with entertainment in mind. Some games evolve to do that through flashy plays, high mechanical skill. Other ones decide to do that through deep storytelling. Some do it in this weird roundabout hyper-complex manner where every system has like 4 separate subsystems covering it. Whatever the hell Stellaris is, listen, just pick your poison, we have something for everybody. Friendslop games do absolutely none of this. Maybe they'll give you an item or two, maybe just some controls tutorial, but that's otherwise all you're going to get. It's on you to figure out the rest. Which in itself is a pretty massive contrast from what we're used to. Normally, games will give you some tools or abilities to work with, but it becomes painfully obvious that they have a very clearly intended way of you playing the game. An intended way for you to solve a puzzle. Maybe a specific way of fighting a boss, but friendslop games give you that ability to just let you choose. You're not forced into playing the game any one specific way. More recently, you've got games like Big Walk, which take that even a step further, since the game itself also doesn't give you any specific set of goals. You just get plopped into the wilderness and just figure it out. You're just sort of expected to find whatever. But being that basic also gives them a massive advantage in that it really does temper your expectations. They're obviously very low budget games, easily spammable given how the games look, so it's not like they don't earn that title of being slop, because they can be manufactured in a way. But it's because of that tempered expectation that it feels almost real. When you take just one look at these sorts of games, you know you're not getting a AAA style of game with that much polish or just massive marketing campaigns. Or when you launch the game itself, half of it isn't even present in the game. Friendslop, by design, just looks crunchy. It looks unpolished. You take one look and you know that these games are designed as more of a craft than as a product they're trying to sell you. It's not as if a lot of the more popular ones are inauthentic, but it's just how it feels crunchy that makes them stand out. Rather than leaning into like a full game experience, you're driven more towards the social aspects of these games. The focus of them is less about the objective and more about how you're going to get there. But it's that leaning into these social aspects of these games that are directly responsible for their resurgence. They represent what gaming always was at its core. Back before video games even had a sliver of a chance of being playable online, any semblance of multiplayer had to be done in person. You just went over to a friend's house and played, you didn't have a choice. It didn't matter what game you chose because you were always forced to interact with other people in the same room. But what if I told you there was a time period where nobody could reasonably interact with each other? What if I told you that something could stunt your social growth? Enter Among Us. A simple game of murder that's been done thousands of times before. But what made this time different? The silly little bean game was given the opportunity of existing at a time where everyone was socially one-shot. Yeah, spending 4 years locked in a cave probably isn't gonna do all that well for your mental health, but it represented a game where the goal wasn't competitive or grindy, but instead a game designed for you to just relax. Like that's it, no, just sit down and relax. Play this game that was obviously developed on nothing more than 2 shawarmas and a Coca-Cola. And it's that return to these social aspects that make these games have any sort of meaning at all. Just the raw energy you get from spending this time. Because you really don't realize how socially starved you are until you actually start to experience any level of social interaction. Like recently, I remember getting in with a bunch of people playing Minecraft. We basically had to find like this cure for a zombie outbreak. Like it was just a dumb Minecraft server event thing. Over the course of a week, I easily met close to like 30 plus people. And between them, we randomly had to cooperate to complete like the dumbest challenges possible. But it's just that raw energy of just having 20 plus people in a room with you. That's just something that you can't replicate. Because after it was over, I literally sat on the floor of my room and just started crying. But that's exactly what makes it feel any sort of special, just that raw energy you get from spending this time. Because you really don't know what you might have missed until after you get a taste. But now that we exist in an era where more people than not are just socially stunted, it makes more sense than not why friendslop should exist now. Because it's the one place where people just don't feel pressured to have to, I suppose, perform in a social setting. You can kind of just lay back for once. For once, it doesn't feel like that you're pressured to have to +1 somebody else. Like you can just play this game, sit down, and relax.